I'd like to welcome you to Doctor in the Making, where we will be discussing all topics related to medicine with the top influencers and doctors in the state of Florida. Dr. Maidique, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So I guess we can start off the interview. Just tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I'm born in Havana, Cuba. Spent my first 9 years of my life fortunately, to a powerful, wealthy family. And when I was 9, we moved to the United States. My mother married an American from New York. We then went back to Cuba a few years later. I went to an American prep school, the best school I've ever been to in my entire life. I then applied to college in the United States. I applied to all the Ivy League schools, MIT, Stanford, and Chicago. Got accepted to all of them, decided to go to MIT because I had technical interests and scientific interests. And MIT accepted me, and not only did they accept me for the bachelor's, for the master's, for the doctoral program, I wound up getting a PhD from MIT, being a member of the faculty. And a week before I graduated, we started a company called Analog Devices Semiconductor, which now makes up 99% of the sales of a company called Analog Devices, which is a Fortune 500 $6 billion company. I was also CEO of a biotechnology company called Genome Therapeutics, and I also taught at Stanford for a number of years. I then came to Miami as a venture capitalist, but I was here for only a couple of years, and FIU was looking for a president. They appointed me as president out of 205 applicants, and I served as president of FIU for 23 years, and then returned to the faculty as a professor. I was asked, what did you accomplish during those 23 years? You have 10 seconds left in this interview. And I said, well, we started schools of engineering, architecture, law, medicine, a Division I football program, added 25,000 students and $500 million to the budget, and a few other things.
Wow. So one heck of a resume, to say the least.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
So, you mentioned your education, definitely a great one. What is the value, in your opinion, to having a broad education containing the arts and the humanities?
Well, it turns out that technical education is cheap and easier to get than finding someone that has wisdom. And wisdom comes in part from having a broad perspective, a broad education. Also, it comes from time. Ben Jonson said that wisdom is something that is beaten into you by age and experience. And I think that having a broad education, and I remember when I was at MIT, I was upset that I had to take all these liberal arts courses. Every semester, another liberal arts courses, Western European history, ancient history, Russian literature, French literature, Western European history. And I remember, saying, well, what does this have to do with engineering? It turns out that after I got out of MIT and I became a CEO, the liberal arts education was actually a better grounding to become a leader than the technical education. Because you see, important leadership decisions are moral decisions. And moral decisions have their basis in your values, your philosophy, your ethics, and that you learn by reading on Western civilization, not by figuring out how to solve a multiple differential equation.
Wow. I think that's a very good answer. Very, very unique statement. I've never heard that before, and I love the way you put it. I think there's definitely a lot of truth behind that statement, and I think it's important for students to hear what you just said, because I think students, or at least the majority of students, definitely feel like that art and humanity courses sometimes may be kind of useless.
Well, if you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a programmer or a circuit designer all your life, and that's what you're going to do at 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, then the more technical education, the more sophisticated your technical education is, the better. But if as you get older, you grow in responsibility, and ultimately you have a leadership role. Broad education is the best for a leader.
Going back to FIU and your time there as the president, how were you offered the position as president, and what made you accept the offer?
Well, there's a friend of mine, his name is Raul Masvidal. We have something very important in common. We're both the sons of Cuban senators. He is the son of Senator Raul Masvidal, and I am Maidique, and I am the son of Senator Modesto Maidique Venegas. And in addition to that, we had a lot of common interests, and he invited me to lunch at a place called Cafe Canino. I was a general partner in Hamburg & Quest Venture Partners at the time, and he said, I have an opportunity for you. I thought obviously it'd be a venture capital opportunity. I thought, is it in electronics? Is it in biotech? Is it in real estate? He said, no, it's for you. And I said, for me? He said, yeah, the presidency of FIU is going to open up. I'm on the committee to find a successor. We're going to fire the president, and you would fit in marvelously. I said, Raul, you're my friend, right? He said, of course I'm your friend. We go back many generations. I said, you know, I make about $1 million. And this job I saw in the newspaper, the guy makes $95,000. And you're my friend, and you're telling me you have an opportunity for me to cut my salary down by 90%. He says, yeah, but think of the psychic income. I said, Raul, you own 2 banks. You own M-Bank and Miami Savings. Where can I deposit that psychic income? He said, well, you know what I'm talking about. He has that kind of accent. So, long story short, he persuaded me to be a candidate. There are 205 candidates, and I was selected. The toughest question I have, that very same day, the day of the selection, he calls me, and with his thick accent, he said, I want you to remember I am not your friend. I'm saying, what is this? So, TV stations, Radio Mambí, WQBA, Channel 51, 23 are all there. And he says to me with this accent, Dr. Maidique, you know this job pays only $95,000. How are you going to be able to make it? You make $1 million. And I said, well, Regent, who's a member of the Board of Regents, Regent Masvidal, I am very fortunate in that I've accumulated some capital over my years as a venture capitalist. And I am in a position where I can, if I want, do something helpful for the community. We got through that. Then he says, Dr. Maidique, he says, if the President of the United States called you and said, Mr. Castro, Fidel Castro, wants to come to the United States to give a speech, and since you have so many Cubans at FIU, he wants to give it at FIU. What do you tell the President of the United States? I said, Regent Masvidal, you have 2 kids. I knew he had 3, but you have 2 kids. No, I have 3. I said, well, let's assume that Libyan terrorists, which are the ones who were in vogue, at the time, captured 2 of your children, and they asked for $20 million ransom to give you back the 2 kids, Daniel and Raul. And it turns out, even though you own 2 banks, you could only get $10 million in cash. And the Libyan terrorists, being civilized and sophisticated, said, okay, we'll take the $10 million. The only thing that we want you to decide is which one of the 2 kids should we kill, Daniel or Raul. He said, that is purely hypothetical. I said, well, it's very similar to the question you asked me, which is also purely hypothetical. If, however, your question is, would I allow someone with socialist ideas or with ideas very different than mine to come to the university and speak? I will tell you this, I shouldn't even be sitting here if the answer to that were anything but yes. And he said, good, they voted, and I became the president of FIU.
How did you manage to grow the university so effectively and efficiently?
My answer is less about the university than it is generic. I had done that at Analog Devices Semiconductor. I had done that at Genome Therapeutics. And there's a way to do this. The first thing is you need to try to find people that are at least as good, if not better than you. They may be better than you in a specific area, They may be better than you in marketing or in the technical area or in some purely academic field. The second thing is you need to identify them, then you need to attract them, then you need to motivate them to stay there. And you need to develop the kind of relationships with them and amongst them so that they will be able to form an effective team. And FIU, when I was there, had 10, 12,000 employees. No one in the world can manage 10, 12,000 employees. You can manage 5, 6, 10, 12, and those will in turn manage the others. So the key to success in any venture is to have a team, and to have a team of really good people, to treat them with respect, to treat them in a way that they know that if they make a mistake, you're going to be behind them. You have to be understanding and forgiving about mistakes, because mistakes are the best teachers. I wrote my best article, I think, ever is the article that argues that great product successes are followed by failures, because people get cocky. And great product successes are preceded by failures, because people become humble and they listen to others and they do a better job. So I would say my gift, if I have a gift, is to identify and to attract and to motivate and keep excellent people. So I could say, other than selling the idea of a medical school, a law school, an architecture school, selling the legislature on funding for us, all the rest was done by others. So my contribution is to bring in superb people. My last team, my provost, my number 2 guy, was a former Princeton faculty member who wrote a book on President Reagan. Interesting book. He said that President Reagan didn't want to be president. He wanted the job of acting like a president. And that's what explains President Reagan. And he was the dean of faculty at the City University of New York. Tremendous background. My number 3 person was a Georgetown, Harvard MBA who had been the chief financial officer for Visa. And my number 4 person was the former research vice president at one of the major universities in the Northeast. We had a fantastic team. We also had very good deans. So that's the key.
So you mentioned teamwork. My next question is, take us through how, you were able to bring about the medical school, the honors college, what really made you decide to, pioneer in that. Would you say that the team you had at the time was, a huge part of that? Or would you say that maybe, it relied more on just decisions that only you could have made?
There are a lot of things you need to delegate in a business. Action plans, details, directions, hiring of the entry-level people. But what you cannot or should not delegate is strategy, direction. That is the sole world of the chief executive officer. And what I decided was, you can't have a major research. Well, first of all, I decided we are going to be a major research university. Now, for a major research university, what you need is a lot of PhD programs. And I lost count at some point, but I added 25 to 30 PhD programs, and I personally gave out the first PhD in the university's history. That begins to establish a base of research and doctoral students that'll make you into a research university. Distinct from being a research university, I said we need to be a university that provides opportunities right here in this town for the young men and women that want to be doctors, lawyers, architects. And I decided, start small, start with the School of Architecture. That was the easiest. Then the law school was very, very tough. 13 years to get approval for a law school. And in fact, people say, well, the medical school must have been even tougher. Well, in getting the law school, I figured out how to do it and who to talk to and what to tell them. And that's a whole story in its own. How did we get the medical school? And the heroes there are David Rivera, who is chairman of appropriations for the Florida House of Representatives, and Marco Rubio, who was the Speaker of the House. The power and the ability, the political ability of those two are what made my dream. And the greatest achievement of my life is to get a medical school. There's only, 25 or so living Americans that have started a medical school.
And do you think that being an immigrant, this isn't even the question I was going to ask next, but since you mentioned that, do you think being an immigrant kind of gives someone more of a push to be successful? Because you're coming from a place that maybe is not as fortunate as the United States, so maybe you appreciate it more and you have more of like a drive?
Well, I think you have to start at the origin. Immigrants are the people that had the risk profile, that had the energy, that had the will, that had the ability to take risks to get to the other place. So immigrants, like Indian immigrants, they're probably the most successful immigrants in America. And I was talking to several, in the process of writing an article on it, to several Indians, and they said, what you're seeing is the top of the entrepreneurial and professional curve in India. And it's similar in Cuba. The ones that left already had to have a lot of confidence and a willingness to accept risks. So it's more who you are and where you came from.
So obviously you have a very impressive legacy, to say the least. A very impressive track record and history. How does your legacy motivate you today?
Well, I feel that my legacy is incomplete. I'm working on a book which tentatively is called Stop and Listen, because I think that the most important, unique, and special quality of his leader is his or her ability to listen to others and then to have the courage to make the best decision. I think that I'm hoping that through my course called Lessons in Life and Leadership, and through my book, I will continue to leave a legacy.
Do you have any tentative release date for that, for anyone watching that may be interested?
2022, it's going to be quite a while.
Alrighty. So my last question, what advice would you give to a student watching this who admires what you have done and aspires to be a great leader like yourself?
Being a very successful leader has its pluses and its minuses. It requires a tremendous commitment to the organization or to the movement or to the initiative that you are pursuing. It's very easy in doing that to forget about your family, about your friends, about your personal life, to lose a life balance. So I would say one of the first things a leader has to ask himself or herself, to what extent am I willing to give up the rest of my life to be successful? And I am proud of the success that I had, but I sometimes regret that I didn't spend more time with my children, more time with my family, more time with my friends. So great leadership has a cost, and you'll find that whether it's Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, they have very strained families, but they're indeed great leaders.
That's about it for today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I really appreciate it, and we hope to have you again soon.
Thank you. It's been a privilege and an opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more, click the like button below and follow me on Instagram at @DoctorInTheMaking_. Also, if there's a topic you'd like to see us talk about, make sure you let me know in the comment section below. And always remember, be grateful.